Hi, Claire. My dog has just started to bark, so apologies. I think there's somebody at the door. But hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining our session today, the Unstereotype session. I'm Rachel Forde. I'm CEO of and I'm delighted and honoured to be hosting this session today, in which we'll be hearing about something that's deeply important to me, which is the role that advertising and media play in tackling prejudice in society today. And at we've been researching stereotypes in ads and in society for nearly 5 years now. And through our UK by Thought Leadership project, time and time again, across a series of studies, it's become empathetically clear that the ideas and representations that advertising places in society have a great power to challenge identity norms that can and do hold people back. I mean, we've all seen it, vapid housewives to bumbling dads. You know, we know the stereotypes all too well. And thanks to the interventions of the ASA, obviously our regulatory body that our industry should be very proud of, progress has been made in eliminating the most harmful examples of ads with regressive representation in them. But despite these steps forward, even the most cursory look at your average ad break can confirm that there is still a long way to go before representation we tend to see in ads can generally be considered positive and authentic. And while the number of examples of diverse representations in ads does seem to be improving on a superficial level, with the more ethically diverse representation before, there is nonetheless a continued challenge of the two-dimensional or secondary way in which diverse characters tend to be brought to life. And for certain communities in society, minimal visibility still exists. The number of ads to have featured differently abled protagonists, for example, can still be counted on one hand. So there is a long way to go before our industry's creative output could truly be considered to represent all parts of society. What I'm really pleased to do today is to say I'm here today to talk about this important topic with Claire Barnett. I hope she is still there. I'm not, she's just disappeared. I'll just give Claire an intro anyway. Welcome, Claire. Claire Barnett is Executive Director of UN Women UK. And if you don't know her, Claire is one amazing person. She has had many extraordinary high impact campaigns, which are testament to her ability to make a difference. Through her initiatives like He for She, Draw a Line, and Safe Spaces Now, Claire has led projects which have faced head-on huge challenges like stereotyping of women, gender-based violence, and sexual harassment. Claire and her team have recently been setting up the Unstereotype Alliance UK chapter, and we at are proud to be part of that journey with her. So thank you all for being with us today. Thank you, Claire. There you are. Sorry, I lost you on my screen then. Thank you for being with us today. It really is an honour to interview you today. I've got lots of questions for you, but for those in the audience, please do feel free to type any questions you have in the chat bar, and I will definitely try to fit some of those in at the end of the session. So Claire, let's begin. Perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about UN Women and what you do there. Sorry, you're on mute and you're not the first. It's fine. This is it's the classic. Everyone, we've all faced it. Hopefully it will the mic. You click on the actual mic versus the little arrow. Hopefully that might work, or we can try and do it in okay. I'm sure as Claire is just turning her mic on. It's probably the long intro I gave you. Here we are. That's it. So Claire, I'm thinking we can hear you. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So
Hello.
Sorry about that, Rachel. The reason that you lost me during your delightful and very flattering intro, which I really appreciate, was that I could already see that even though we use Remo a lot at UN Women and my microphone was on, but it said off to you. And I thought we're going to get that moment where you say, you need to unmute, and I'm trying to say, I am. But anyway, I've changed the settings.
Thank you.
You've been wonderful. So I would be delighted to tell you a little bit about UN Women. So it's a great question, because one of the first comments that we often get is, I feel that I maybe should have heard of you, but I don't think I have. We are a very young UN agency, so we're 10 years old last year. And we are the global champion for gender equality and the elimination of ending gender-based violence, the elimination of gender-based violence. So our mission, quite simply, is for every woman and girl to have the equal access, but also real opportunity to safety, choice, and a voice. So freedom from violence and harassment of all kinds, choice over her work, her body, and a voice in society. So not just as a service user, but also as a leader. And we do that at every level of society. So we're unique in that we work at the grassroots level, delivering programs with women and girls in need. We work with governments to help design more gender equal policy and legislation. But we also work on activism and behavioural and normative change. And that makes us unique within the UN system, but also globally. So being a small and lean organisation with a big mission, a big part of what we do is partnership and collaboration, and that's absolutely key to who we are. So the Unstereotype Alliance is just our latest very exciting example of that.
Yeah, if you couldn't, I mean, obviously you're not very busy, Claire. If you could tell us also a little bit more, so obviously this is the UK chapter of the Unstereotype Alliance. How did this first come to life? And again, you know, if you can explain a little bit around that, because the work that you do there is amazing as well.
Yeah, so the purpose of the Unstereotype Alliance is to unite industry leaders in championing the end of gender bias in advertising, communications and branding, but also to go beyond ending bias internally and look at how can we reach out our influence to wider society. So one of the biggest barriers that we always see across our work worldwide to achieving gender equality is harmful and deeply held stereotypical beliefs that hold us back. And so, you know, to be clear, that's in the global north as well. And at least here, gender stereotypes have existed for pretty much all of written history. So these are so closely tied to our household norms, our societal norms, and we have a lot of unpacking to do. So it's not just about refraining from perpetuating harmful behaviours, it's also about learning how to do more to reach out and use our influence as a sector within wider society. So the Alliance is industry-led and convened by UN Women, and to date we have chapters, let's see if I can remember them, in Brazil, India, Japan, South Africa, UAE, Kenya and Mexico, which is our latest launch, and of course the UK. So I'm proud, we're obviously a little bit competitive about it, I'm proud to say that our UK chapter is our largest. And of course, reflecting the diversity in markets, every chapter has a very different priority. So it's all based on data from local markets and working together to create wider change.
No, amazing. I mean, as you say, you know, we're proud to be part of your UK chapter. And, you know, as we say, you know, progress is being made when it comes to, you know, obviously achieving more positive representation in advertising. But in your opinion, what do you think are the main obstacles that we need to get over to progress?
Yeah, so one of the frameworks that you know about already, but some of those in the room might not, is that we've worked up through our global alliance is the Unstereotype metric, which is about really getting into the intricate details of where stereotyping exists and how we can get over it. And as you say, we're seeing more ads casting women with more speaking roles, which is a great thing. But still in households at work as leaders and parents, we're seeing that only 7% of women and 9% of men are being shown in non-traditional roles. And this is worse where there are intersections with ageism, racial bias, norms around body types coming into the picture, and it's worsened as a result of COVID. So what we really want to look at, and the reason we created this metric with the members, is it's not just about women and other marginalised people being represented, it's about how they're represented. What's the perspective, what's the personality? And you know, it's interesting to see that the industry in some ways has gone backwards as a result of the pandemic. We don't know whether fully yet whether that is teams struggling to deal with other pressures and reverting back to deeply held social norms, whether it's actually the fact that the pandemic in some ways has entrenched caring and other responsibilities in wider society, and women have been many of the first to lose their livelihoods and have to return home as a result of that. But it's interesting to see that here as well, COVID's having an effect. So what I think is quite special about this is that the Alliance, as you know, is unique in that it goes beyond any traditional rivalries. And I think it recognises for the first time the power that this industry has to create really systemic change in terms of public attitudes. So we think it's very exciting.
Well, it is. I think I even read today that the the metric actually, there's obviously, as you can imagine, there's incredibly strong correlation with, the higher the unstereotype, actually, the higher the business results as well. And I know that, Unilever have got a lot of backing against, Dove, for example, around some of their campaigns. So, not only society, but it works for brands. People buy into that, don't they? And another massive thing that I'm to a lot of women and men too is the Safe Spaces Now campaign. Obviously, quite damaging stats in terms of, it evidences the devastating extent of sexual danger in the UK. I think it said over 7 in 10 women have said they've been harassed. And then worryingly, that's when you look at 18 to 24s, only 3% of women said that they'd never been harassed before. Clearly, the report was published, and we've got goosebumps actually as I'm saying this, the report was published at a painful and poignant moment that couldn't have been more relevant, obviously, in the week of the murder of Sarah Everard. And I know from people at just how big an impact that event has had on people. And it does feel that, it's brought to the surface, just that, how much impact it has and how these historical incidents and traumas, just like, George Floyd's murder and obviously the result that came out today from the trial, these moments around really key times of, for those who experience racism, and then moments like Sarah Everard, it does give. What do you think our industry can do to make a positive difference around women's safety?
So, yeah, I think it's a great point. And I guess one thing I would draw attention to is that this is work that we've been doing in cities around the world for a decade now, and we launched in the UK at the beginning of 2020. And I truly have never seen so much momentum around this issue as we have now. Over the past 3-4 months in the UK, we've been able to run workshops with over 700 women and girls from marginalised groups to design solutions that will actually help to make our public spaces safer, from online spaces to streets and public transport, nightlife and more. And I think that's where this industry can play a really interesting role. So we are already working with a number of advertisers and media owners internally on how we can create toolkits for employers, because I think increasingly employers are starting to see their employees as 3D individuals with lives outside the workplace. And of course, we have to be considering women and other marginalised people as those individuals. It's not just about what they do when they're at work, it's about their journey to work. How does that affect their safety? And so many other things. But I think there's a really exciting piece of work we're just embarking on at the moment, which is about, again, how can we, within this sector, influence wider behavioural change? So many of the ideas that came out of the workshops, the surveys and the analysis that we've done are relatively what you might describe as easy wins in terms of setting standards of behaviour in specific spaces and helping to educate people as bystanders to do more when they see that behaviour. And I think that's where we would love advertisers, media owners and anybody in the industry to get involved actively in this project and think about how we can help to influence that behaviour through the contact that we have with the public, not just in our content but with our wider footprints as well. And of course considering online spaces as a public space, as they are, increasingly the online offline boundary is very blurred when we think about an issue like sexual harassment, which is a spectrum, by the way, from yes, catcalling, wolf whistling, but through to more serious incidences of attack. And we're finding that women aren't reporting those in large numbers as well. So I think we have a very unique moment at the end of the pandemic, as it were, hopefully at the end of lockdown, when we all go back to public space at the same time in June, and hopefully we'll never have a moment like that again. So our hope is that if we really use the momentum at that moment to change the way that spaces are constructed and behaviour within them happens, we can really create something long lasting.
No, I think it's amazing work, and I think as an employer myself, and you've got a duty of care to your people in and out of work. I know that a lot of us in the industry signed the open letter to the government around taxis, like why should taxi have tax relief after 9 p.m. We want our women and all our people to feel safe all the time. And I think actually the unique opportunity we do have is, as you say, when not only return to public spaces, but return to the office, that we completely rethink that the way that actually what are core hours in the office? Do you need to, working late on pictures and getting trains home late at night? Dare I say it, that has to be, a thing of the past that has to be completely re-looked at. And so I think that's interesting from an employer point of view. And then what you said about actually media owners getting behind this, I saw even the window stickers of shops about actually, give us space. And I think, as you say, we've got this unique moment in time, haven't we? I can't see oh yes, I can see, just checking the time, how long we've got. Maybe Stephen will just have to butt in. But if I can, Claire, just to move over to men now. So at UN, we recently launched a big research study called The Mandate, which you very generously supported. So thank you, Claire. And the project has shown that there are real challenges around male identity that are far from resolved. And, above all, centering on the pressure not to show vulnerability or express emotions. And the charity partner that we work with, Campaign Against Living Miserably, they've made it clear how serious the consequences are of these stoic stereotypes. And so, again, what do you think the role of widening society thinking is around masculinity? What can we do there?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And as you might know from our He for She campaign, we think there also is a lot of momentum there. It's engaging men and boys is really key to what we do, because we know from our work, from our research around the world, that toxic masculinity and patriarchy is really not good for anyone. We're just in the process of rolling out He for She 2.0, as it were, now, which is about moving from the about 2.4 million commitments that we've had from men worldwide to do something into really practical actions. So moving beyond male leadership, standing up for change, but giving communities the tools that they need to create change on the ground. I think that empathy has to be really at the heart of this. So any change is going to be difficult, and within the women's sector and human rights sector more broadly, it's quite a divisive place actually, which I think is often a surprise to people. And so I think that we have to go back to, this is an amazing moment to be having these conversations. We talk a lot about the challenges, but also there's a great opportunity here to help people of all genders by moving this conversation forward. So I hope that everybody in the room, as their organisation, but also as individuals, will engage with us and get very actively involved in making the change happen at the best moment that we've had.
Well, Claire, you're an inspiration. So I think if anybody doesn't feel inspired in the audience, I can't imagine that they don't. And I've seen Stephen, yes, and just wanted to say thank you so much, Claire. That really was truly fascinating and wonderful. I just wish we could have carried on. We'll have to carry on somewhere else. And also thank you so much to MediaTel for giving the platform. And thank you everyone for listening. If there were any questions, please do send them and I'll make sure that Claire gets them. So, but thank you, Claire. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, MediaTel.
Thanks, Rachel. I really enjoyed that. And thank you, MediaTel. You've been absolutely wonderful. Great to see everyone in the room. And as I say, please do keep in touch with us at UN Women UK. Yeah.
And special thanks to Michael Brown for bringing us all together. But thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.